Morning, I'm Dr. Suraiya Shahin and today I will teach you romantic poetry. Who are romantic poets, the style of their poetry and characteristics of romantic poetry. In the history of English literature, romantic period begins in 1798 and continues until 1837. And the poetry written during this age is called romantic poetry. Romanticism began as an artistic movement in France and Britain. Romanticism began as an artistic movement in France and Britain in the early decade of the 19th century and flourished until mid-century. Theodore Watts Dunton described Romanticism as the Renaissance of wonder. Dunton calls Romanticism as the Renaissance of wonder. Romanticism, emphasizing emotion and imagination, emerged as a response to disillusionment with the Enlightenment values of reason and order in the aftermath of the French Revolution of 1789. The major romantic poets are William Blake, Lord Byron, John Keats, Wordsworth, Shelley, John Clare, Robert Burns, Robert Southey, Coleridge. Now I talk about characteristics of romantic poetry. And the first characteristic is transitional influence. Since the Romantic period is the age of transition, it reflects the drastic changes that took place in European society and culture and gives rise to individualism, the growing interest in emotion and imagination, along with the influence of revolutionary politics. The major romantic poets like William Blake, Wordsworth, and Coleridge, who were influenced by neoclassical traditions, now began to explore new ideas, new themes, and poetic forms that defined the Romantic era. Clear? So this is about transitional influence. Now the next characteristic is love for nature. As a reaction to neoclassicism, which focused on urban life and society, romantic poetry depicted the natural world, love for nature, in their poetry. We find romantic writers taking nature as a source of inspiration, beauty, and spiritual renewal. They find nature a sacred place for reflection and meditation that bring peace in their personal crisis. For example, Wordsworth expressed this sentiment in his poem Tintern Abbey when he says, "Nature never did betray the heart that loved her." In his other poems also, Wordsworth brings relief to the soul by writing such poetry. And similarly, Coleridge, in his famous ballad, The Rime of Ancient Mariner, illustrates the natural world that plays a vital role in this poem. As in the Ancient Mariner, he focuses on spiritual renewal when he says, "He prayeth best who loveth best all things both great and small. For the dear God who loveth us, he made and loveth all." He appreciates the beautiful creation of God, the love of God for every living thing. Now, the next characteristic is focus on imagination. Romantic poets gave the importance of imagination. For them, imagination contains the power to combine reason and emotion. They believe in the concept that imagination enables humans to reconcile with situation and differences. The power of imagination creates the faculty of understanding the things deeply. They think that the power of imagination creates the faculty of understanding the things deeply. So the Romantic poets emphasized the power of imagination through the medium of their marvelous poetry. As Coleridge describes the importance of imagination when he says, imagination is everything, it is the source of all creation. Coleridge emphasizes the power of imagination when he says, imagination is everything, it is the source of all creation. Similarly, William Blake also asserts the power of imagination when he writes, one power alone makes a poet, imagination, the divine vision. Means, Black means to say that imagination is the divine vision. He considers imagination as the divine vision. Imagination, the only power which makes someone a great poet. Similarly, John Keats also expresses the power of imagination in his ode on a Grecian urn when he says, heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Means the power of imagination is stronger, and it is stronger and greater than reality. We find John Keats a complete romantic poet when he says, a thing of beauty is joy forever. This is John Keats. Now, the next characteristic is spontaneity and music. Romantic poetry is known for its distinguished lyrical quality, rhyme, and rhythm. Romantic poets like Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats, Coleridge, and Byron often used rhythm, rhyme, and repetition to make their poetry musical and spontaneity. Their poetry refers to the spontaneous flow of ideas. The poetry of Romantic poets refer to the spontaneous flow of ideas. Now, next characteristic is emotions and feelings. Romantic poets believed that emotions are as important as logical reasoning. Romantic poets believed that emotions are as important as logical reasoning. In 1833, John Stuart defined poetry as feeling itself, using thought only as a way to express it. Means, Stuart means to say that the best poetry is one that expresses the strongest feeling. Stuart means to say that the best poetry is the one that expresses the strongest feeling. While Wordsworth defines poetry as a spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling, it takes its origin from emotion recollected in tranquility. So Wordsworth means to say that the poet reflects on their emotions in tranquility when the poet is at peace. Talks about peace. So Romantic poets believe in the concept that poetry evokes the mind, the state of feeling and emotions. As Robert Burns says, my love is like a red, red rose. This evokes emotions and feelings, the state of mind. The next characteristic of Romantic poetry is exotic and supernatural. The word exotic in Romantic poetry refers to places, cultures, and things that were distant or unfamiliar to the poet. The word exotic in Romantic poetry refers to places, cultures, or things that were distant or unfamiliar to the poet. Through the medium of the Romantic poetry, they explored the mysterious and the unknown things, far-fetched imagery. As Romantic poets like Coleridge gave the theory of willing suspension of disbelief. The Romantic poet Coleridge gave the theory of willing suspension of disbelief, which means willingly assuming something unreal to be real. Through this theory, willing suspension of disbelief, Coleridge means to say that we willingly start assuming something unreal to be real. Clear? So romantic poets were also interested in the supernatural world, the world of ghosts, spirits, and other mysterious phenomena. Coleridge says the rhyme of Ancient Mariner is the best example of it, where Coleridge used supernatural power throughout this ballad. Clear? And the last characteristic is use of common language. Romantic poets believed that poetry should be written in a language spoken by men in their day-to-day life. Romantic poets believed that poetry should be written in a language spoken by men in their day-to-day life. As Wordsworth says that the subject matter fits for poetry is the life of common men. Wordsworth says that the subject matter of the poetry should be the life of the common man. So as a result of it, the simple and ordinary language should be used to write poetry. The simple and ordinary language should be used to write poetry. Okay, so these are the characteristics of romantic poetry. Thank you.